Hello and welcome everybody to this. It's an introductory talk on Huang Lao Taoist acupuncture. Welcome to everybody that's here. And are there many more people actually online? It's a sign of the times from since COVID, I guess. We're very fortunate. I just want to say we're very fortunate to have Alex Jacobs here, who is generously assisting me with the technology. And he'll be keeping an eye on all the questions, online questions. Great. This is Alex. We also have James. Come on, James. James Morse, who's also here assisting. It's fantastic. And they'll be helping with keeping an eye on all the online questions. So none of you are going to miss out. And just before we get into talking about Huang Lao Taoist acupuncture, I just want to ask you, maybe people here, but certainly people online also, what's your kind of preferred style of acupuncture, just to get a kind of feel? First of all, I mean, in practice, when you're practicing it, the 5 elements. Any show of hands there, maybe online? Can you see that, Alex?
Okay, so yeah, I'll just look at the chat. So we've got Ling Shu acupuncture. Interesting.
Okay.
5 elements.
Yeah.
I actually read a book on Ling Shu acupuncture. I only half understood it. So 5 elements in TCM. Complete beginner, which is great. TCM. Meridian, Japanese meridian.
Yeah.
And 5
holy.
elements in TCM. 5 elements with stems and branches.
Wow.
Excellent.
Lovely.
TCM. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's about the range.
Yeah. Fantastic. That is basically the range. Mostly all bases covered there. So I just want to say, it is an introductory talk, and Huang Lao acupuncture, it isn't some new species of acupuncture. It's not like it's going to be another way of practicing. In fact, really, when you learn it, it really holds the key for all of the other acupuncture styles. It really is the origin of all these different styles that are practiced, and in fact will enhance whatever style that you will be practicing or that you prefer to practice. I don't know if everybody, it's an old story, you know, this story of the blind men and the elephant, you know that story? And do you know that story? It's a very well-known story. And I often think of that when I think about all of these different styles of acupuncture, you know, where must have been a very huge elephant. And there's a handful of blind men and they're told to go and really sort out what kind of creature this is. And some feel the side of the body of the elephant and they go, this is a wall. And they're very certain of that. This is a wall. And somebody else at the tail, they're going, no, this is really like a rope. This elephant is like a rope. That's what it's like. And somebody else at the leg said, no, it's a tree trunk. And then you've got the ears, they're like a fan, and the trunk, which is really, really solid, hard, a bit more like a spear. And I often think of that with acupuncture. You know, when you have a certain style, we don't see the whole big picture. And to be able to understand what the core of this acupuncture is and the origins, when you go right back to the seed of it, you'll see that actually all of it is right. The elephant is like a rope. It is like a wall, it is like a trunk, it is like all of these different things, but to get the whole full picture is just, it's a really good thing to do. So the aim of this talk is to explain some fundamental concepts in Huang Lao Taoism and therefore Huang Lao acupuncture, where it came from, its history and its relevance to present day acupuncturists. And I'm also at the end going to probably go over the stems and branches year chart, which looks complicated on the surface, but actually it is pretty straightforward 5 element stuff. Anyway, so, and also I'm going to go over the farmer's calendar. I'm going to go over some practical things that you can use with the farmer's calendar in combination with the branches and 6 divisions, so that you've got something at the end to take away with you in your practice. And then at the very end, we're going to have questions, I think, Alex, and also it will be open up to people here and also people online. And we have 2 people here, but keeping an eye on all those questions. So
yes, and just remember that Roisin is also running a full course this year. She's very humble. She's not even mentioned her course. It should be 6 weekends this year where she'll be teaching the full way of working with all of this and sharing her lifetime insights as well. But we'll talk a little bit about that at the end.
Thanks. So I was just going to start with one question myself, and that is, why would we learn this? Why learn Huang Lao Taoism? It would be very interesting to know everybody's reasons, but I think that's going to take up an awful lot of time. But I'm going to, I think some of those reasons might be to do with, that you were stimulated to learn this because you've come across a practitioner whose style you really admire, you really want to get to the base of it, find out how it works. Or maybe you're just more like me in a way. That isn't me, that cute kid. But anyway, where you've just got this kind of like childlike, why is this so? Why are all these things within acupuncture? We're asked to accept so many concepts, especially here in the West, where it's a very different view of the body, very different view of illness, different way of thinking. And yet we're presented with a whole philosophy with no explanation as to what's behind it, what's at the base of this. So I like this, that we all have this kind of like childlike curiosity, wanting to know, the basis of it. They're often practical questions as to why did this treatment work at a certain particular time in somebody, and then you do it again, it's just like not effective or not as effective. Or sometimes you've got 2 patients, one of them you do a treatment, and the next patient you think has got very similar energies, same kind of, they might be indeficient or some accumulation of damp or whatever it is, and yet the treatment just doesn't work adequately, at all, and you're kind of scratching your head. But I think for me especially, I guess, with this Huang Lao Taoism, what I feel is that just knowing and understanding Huang Lao acupuncture, it just explains so much of the theory. It brings immense clarity. And so that so many of these contradictions, it's one of those things at Acupuncture College, it's like we just have to accept that acupuncture is really contradictory. Whereas in fact, when you understand again the core of it, it's kind of like, one person might say it's like that elephant again, isn't it? Oh, it's a tail. No, it's not really. It's a wall. But if you can see the whole picture, then those contradictions are really not there nearly as much as it's made out to be. And to get that deep understanding and to have that clarity, it's a really good feeling. It just allows one to be really clear about your treatment. This whole idea of intention, we all often talk about intention when we're doing treatment. And it's not like some kind of special, mental ability to be able to put, something in there with the needle, just, over the ethers or whatever. It's actually being really, really clear about the time, about the space, about that person's energies, about how your different points harmonize or otherwise with the meridians that you've chosen to do, how it all comes together. Because the important thing, I think, is that it harmonizes together all the points, and it is a different experience. In my experience, people tell me it's a very different experience. So it's a very nice, that clarity, and also being quite present in this time. It's a good place to be when treating, and it's a very different quality than, say, conviction, because conviction, can be wrong. the elephant is not just simply a wall, you know, or our treatment is not just simply the only treatment there is. There's just, clarity's got a different quality. So, so what is Huang Lao? That's what we're going to examine. And I like this picture of Huang Di, very good resemblance in somebody totally mythical that never actually existed. But I really like it because it's also got the yellow dragon in the background. And this is really important in Huang Lao Taoism. We know Huang Di, of course, is the yellow emperor, the earth emperor. He was supposedly around from about 2,500 to 2,700 BC in Chinese mythology, and he's the earth emperor. So we're going to look at, we're going to come back to Huang Di in a moment because I'm going to examine first Lao Tzu and then look at why those two came together during well, actually just a bit before the Han Dynasty. So here we have Lao Tzu, the old master. We all know Lao Tzu as the father of Taoism. And again, I was quite taken by surprise when eventually I discovered that he didn't actually exist. You know, the book itself can be referred to as Lao Tzu, but Lao Tzu, again, is, well, the consensus is that he didn't actually exist as one person. When they opened up the Ma Wang-dui tombs in 1973, and they found at that time the earliest texts of Lao Tzu, and the text, as I say, itself is sometimes referred to as Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching, and they found it along with the I Ching and other medical texts. They were sealed in 168 BC. And these Ma Wang-dui versions of Lao Tzu, they were about 5,000 characters, 5,000 words on them, and they were dated to the early 2nd century. However, in 1993, the Gojian tomb was unearthed, and the texts here were dated from about the 4th century, and some say the 5th century. Although they were much shorter texts, they were written on bamboo strips. They were about 1,600 words, so much, much smaller. But the Gojian Lao Tzu is considered to be the ancestor of all the other Tao Te Chings that were discovered to date. And it seemed to have existed in different forms and had different origins, even though it's a tiny book, as we all know, it's not a large book. And so it appears that the Taoist thought originated from about the early 5th century BC. And it's odd that both in the West and in the East, that there was a move away from understanding life and our origins, moving away from myth and looking into philosophy. And amongst all the philosophers in China, the Taoists were the most concerned with really the origins of the cosmos and the origins of the cosmos and us within it. They were really concerned with cosmogony. And that's where it comes in with Huang Di, which we will look at in a minute. Look at my notes here. Yeah, just that they were the most enthusiastic in pursuing this kind of heavenly astronomical solutions to finding out where we all came from. And just to point out as well, in that history of Taoism, in the 2nd century AD, there was a brand new Taoist tradition called the Celestial Masters that was associated with the healing traditions. And to mention that this concept of spirits and constellations within the body, that was a separate, that kind of developed separately from Taoist meditation techniques, where they associated those with the constellations and these spirits in the body. And again, that was from the earlier times. So Sun Si Miao, he apparently was a celestial master. He proclaimed himself to be a celestial master when he was, I think, describing some of the herbal. I'm looking over here at Alex and James because they're herbalists that I know. So, yeah, he proclaimed himself to be a celestial master, which is interesting, isn't it? So, I think I just did a very quick, because it's very easy to, well, I forget all the different dynasties, and so to see where they all are. So, this, of course, everybody knows this. It's on, I think it's used on T-shirts and shoes, and, you know, it's used everywhere these days, isn't it? Probably handbags. And this Tai Chi symbol, the circle of it is referred to often as the limited infinity, which really goes back to this whole kind of try and studying what we came from astronomically, you know, from the cosmos, this idea of the limited infinity. Because it was really, the Taoist was really at the center of the development of early Chinese cosmology. They developed the concepts of oneness, the great oneness, the Tai, and the constancy before it. Was these concepts of oneness were concepts that were to do with before heaven and earth ever existed, before yin and yang, and before the 5 elements existed. It's yeah, very interesting stuff. When you get down to just Huananzi was written, or it was compiled by and sponsored by the grandson of the first Han dynasty emperor, and so he compiled, you know, as much as was known about Taoism and Huananzi, and it's just got some great stuff. Tao Te Ching, by the way, refers to non-existence. Tai Chi, the Tao Te Ching, non-existence I call the beginning of heaven and earth. It's before heaven and earth, and I love this. Oh, you can't. Can you get that top thing off? Can they? I will just read it out then for people here because it's not so clear. The people online can see it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So this reminds me of that little kid with the question mark, you know, the why. So there was the existence. And what was before the existence? There was the non-existence. And what was before non-existence? There was not yet a beginning of non-existence. And what was before the not yet beginning of non-existence? There was not yet a beginning of the not yet beginning of non-existence. And I just think it kind of like, it's a lovely little quote because it's like they just want to go really, really far back to the origins of what really was here before the cosmos, what was really here before heaven, earth, man, before the five elements. And so when Tao Te Ching says, well, this is, I think the Tao begins with one, however, does not give birth, therefore it divided into yin and yang. I think that's also from Huananzi. But the one in the Tao Te Ching says Tao generates one. And as I say, in Tao Te Ching, it's also non-existence is the beginning of heaven and earth. This one is really, it's actually that great oneness that's the origin of everything that came after it. And then that one generates the two. And people often think, what's the two, yin and yang? But actually, it's out of this incredible confusion where that nothing, yin and yang doesn't exist, as I say. In Huananzi, there's another bit where it said there was nothing but a vast, drizzling, humid state with a similitude of vacancy and form existed. So there was nothing, not even the start of 5 elements. And so there was only an idea of emptiness and of form, of yin and yang, and of heaven and earth. And this oneness was called the Tao. So out of this oneness, part of the Tao is that where something can exist, it will exist. Where something has some tendency. So within this vast chaos in a sense, or, you know, very indescript, and indistinct. There was this ability to really, really condense. And again, in Huananzi, it talks about this Tao that just condenses so small that it's even smaller than a fistful. That's the entire cosmos. It just condenses in. This, of course, is the yin force. It just condenses and then produces earth. And then at the same time, there's this ability within that to just expand outwards, just to the far reaches of our known universe. All the stars, all the heavens, all of the people in it. So when the Tao begins with one, it's not just like a one idea, the Tao, something indistinct. It is actually referring back to this question they had about cosmogony, the origins of the world, the origins of us and all of life. And I know that Jacob Kistemaker, who wrote The Sky During the Han, and he very kindly, because I'm not an astronomer, I really wanted to get my astronomy section of the book checked out, and he kindly read over it. And I said he may, because there's a lot of reference to these concepts. So he read some of this kind of stuff in the book, and he's a physicist. He said, it's pure physics, which of course it isn't, but the Taoists, their thinking was along that line, you know, this inquiring into what was there before, and that's an inquiring mind of a physicist from way back when. So, and we often don't think of Taoists like that. I think we often think of them like, you know, Chuang Tzu and, you know, slightly hippy dippy, or you know, but actually no, you know, it was quite intellectual in a way. So is this on? Okay, so here again, we've got Huang Di. And it's so why did the Han Taoists merge Huang Di with Lao Tzu? And really it's to do with that cosmology. So as I say, we know him as this Earth Emperor, but there's so much more to Huang Di than that. It's really to do with the early attempts to understand the cosmos. Here you have Huang Di, the Yellow Emperor, but also, as Anshul points out, his personal name was Xuan Yuan, which is also this yellow dragon. I'm going to show you in a minute where that yellow dragon comes from and what Xuan Yuan actually is. But it is well known that the personal name of Huang Di, the Yellow Emperor, the Earth Emperor, is Xuan Yuan. And just at the particular time that these came together, you know, because there was the Qin Han, the Qin dynasty just before the early Han dynasty, where they united. Before China became united under Qin, there were many, many different kings, emperors. They all had their own astronomer, astrologer. I mean, part of that was kind of, you know, to predict what was happening in their kingdom, because the skies were thought of, you know, reflecting what was happening on Earth, so that there were comets. The early Chinese, they were the first people to record a sighting of a supernovae. And apparently, there's only ever been 7 visible to the naked eye supernovae in the history of the world, in the written history of the world. There must have been many more before that, but mostly you can't see them. They're too far the distance you need. And apparently these ones that are naked eye ones that are visible, only 7 in the whole time that we know about. They stay around for months and months. And so all of that was recorded. They were very astute observers and recorders of what they saw in the heavens. So there were many different astronomy schools. The other reason why the kings and emperors wanted an astronomer, an astrologer, was also actually because the heavenly mandate was well established, in the Shang dynasty just before the Qin dynasty and the Han dynasty, and so the emperor, the king of the particular kingdom, wanted to make sure that he was aligning himself up with the heavens. So when China became united under Qin, a lot of these schools, a lot of these astronomy schools, different schools of thought coalesced, and there were 3 different main schools, which it's not necessary to go into those right now. But there was so much information around the time of the Han Dynasty on astronomy. So the Taoists who'd been asking all these questions for such an awfully long time now also had more information. They had a really good map of the sky. Already the solstices and equinoxes, where the sun is at the highest and lowest point and where it is at the celestial equator, they were already known by about 2,500, along with, Sumeria and other countries. It was already well known where the sun was at that time. And in fact, Huang Di his origins are placed at the time where they discovered the solstice. And as you will see, his personal name, that is the yellow dragon. Where's the other one? Yeah, I just wanted to say about this yellow dragon, which is this is the star formation. Oh, I can use this. I can use this. You can all see the star formation here. And this is actually...
Also on the front cover of your book.
Thank you, Alex. You're very good at this, Alex.
So just saying it's on the front cover of Roisin's book. So.
Thank you. So this is actually Xuan Yuan that Anshul declares is the personal name of Huang Di. And then Elizabeth Rocher de la Vallée, who I'm sure many of you, all the 5 element people know, probably lots more. She said that actually Huang is, because when I got this designed, I said, I want the yellow dragon, but I want the yellow dragon to be also the color of the sun, yellowy, goldy dragon. And so I was really quite pleased to see that Huang is, in fact, the color Huang is the color of the cultivated earth, but also the rays of the sun and the sun moving through that earth. So it's not just the color of, the yellow earth, as they say, it is also the sun. It's also
gold is the color of the emperor, isn't it, Dean? Isn't that right? Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So and Huang also means like Huang Jin is gold, right? Yeah. So Huang is used for gold too.
That's a yellowy gold.
Yeah.
So so also Xuan Yuan is also known as the yellow dragon, which is why I like that picture of Huang Di. And here you see, this is a picture of, this is from Jacob Kistemaker and Sun Xiao Chun, who wrote a fantastic book. I think there's been a lot of discussion about astromedicine ever since I think they wrote that book, because even though Ho Peng Yuk did a really good thesis in the 60s, copy of it's in the British Library, but I don't know if it's where else it's published. And he did a thesis on Jin Shu, the history of the Jin dynasty, just straight after the Han dynasty, on the stars during the Han and the Jin dynasty. But Kistemaker and Sun Shi-chun did this fantastic book, The Stars During the Han Dynasty, The Sky During the Han Dynasty, I should say. And so here you'll see, this line is the ecliptic, where the sun moves through the year. You'll see Gemini, and then it goes into Leo. But during the time that Huang Di was said to have existed, and then Xuan Yuan, this is Xuan Yuan. You see him crashing right onto the ecliptic. He was actually at the summer solstice, so represented, the solstice, the highest point of the sun. Also, you just see, just to point out, you see Mingtang here, which is the celestial, the central hall of the imperial palace. where they meet, and it's used a lot in.
I think it's this part.
Yes, yes, it is, and it's just right there by Xuanyuan. And this is Wudizo, which is where Huang Di meets up with the other 4D of the seasons. So, and each major part of the sky, there's a place for Huang Di, because Huang Di is really considered to be the solar god, actually. And so he meets up with the day of the other 4 seasons to discuss the coming year and how that's all going to pan out. Yeah. And I just want to say, oh yes, so with the Xuanyuan, it's said to be because when it was on the solstice, the Xuanyuan is known, it's where the sun is on the summer solstice. During the winter, so if there's a full moon here at Xuanyuan, it means it's the winter solstice. And so it's this forces of yin and yang meet between the winter and the summer solstice. And because Xuanyuan is also known as the god of thunder and lightning, which is also kind of like, part of Roisin, that this is the 3rd month of summer where he is here. But so where the forces of yin and yang meet to produce the seasons, and depending on the quality of how they meet, that's where you get, if it's nice and gentle, you get nice and gentle rain. If it's really dramatic, then you get the thunder and lightning, etc. Sima Chan wrote that the change in the 24 kinds of climate, that's the solar terms Alex knows all about, are all presided over by Xuanyuan, and Xuanyuan is the Yellow Emperor. And just to point out here that, so this is the Earth Emperor, the Yellow Dragon. By the time of the Han Dynasty, he's moved over to the 3rd month of summer. We'll go into a little bit about the seasons when we look at the farmer's calendar, but in this position, it's the 3rd month of summer, which is why then Earth is associated with the 3rd month of summer.
Do you know the Western name of the Xuanyuan constellation? Someone's just asked.
Xuanyuan. Well, I am going to answer more questions later on, but the thing is that with the Chinese map, it's like every era, they all join up the dots differently. There's so many million stars, and so many stars that are even visible to the naked eye. And different people didn't join up the dots all the same. They joined them up differently. When you'll see in a minute, when I move over to, this is the Central Palace, and you'll see that although they have the plough here, they don't have the Little Dipper. That isn't actually quite the Little Dipper. The Little Dipper, it's a combination of different stars there, which I haven't actually marked out. It's I think from Chanwang Dadi down to Gochen somewhere, but so they mark it differently. And even I think it was in the 16th century AD in the West, one particular scientist, I think he was German, decided to rename all the constellations. Well, the Libra, the 12 major constellations, and he wanted to rename them after the 12 apostles. And he really tried to sell that one, but it just didn't take off. So we're stuck with the Libra, Aries and Scorpio and all of that. So this entire circle is the Central Palace, and there are 4 palaces that go around that. For the Chinese. And what this is like 50 degrees or so. Just very briefly, we have an equator, and we've got the North Pole and the South Pole. And the equator and the North Pole and South Pole are projected onto the heavens above us. So this area is a projection, the exact little circle here is a projection of the earthly North Pole on, called the celestial North Pole. And then during the Han Dynasty, Beiji was the pole star. and not Polaris. Polaris here is Chan Wang Dadi, and it's a lovely star. It's got a lovely concepts around Chan Wang Dai. Well, Chan, of course, is heaven. Huang is earth. And Tai is, again, that great oneness, Chan Wang Dai Day. So it's the great oneness, heaven and earth. And when in the Tao Te Ching, just, I've lost my page. Anyway, in Tao Te Ching, it mentions that because it's a very, very faint star, this Chan Wang Dai Day, and it mentions it's darkly visible. It only appears that it's there. I know not whose sun it is, but it images the forefather or something of God. You know, like it is way, way, way back. So it's something way up there. It's not in the center of the North Celestial pole. It's just off to the side slightly. That Polaris is now closer to our North Celestial pole than it's ever been, well, in the last 27,000 years, because the precession, the pole stars move a bit. But it's a beautiful way, I think, when they refer to that, they're really referring to this star. Again, it's bringing that Taoist interest in the cosmos into their philosophy. So this was the home of Rendi, but also you've got here Chani and Tai, which are also the home, one of the celestial homes of also Guangdi. Can stop here at the Chani and Rendi at Tai. It's a bit complicated. Can't go into Tai, the movement of Tai, Rendi. But Rendi is the human god, and the human god. It's very odd. I always thought it was very odd that Rendi wasn't on the front of Huangdi Neijing, because Rendi is the human god that is in charge of, or at least he's the one that oversees and knows all about epidemics, illness, starvation, all of the afflictions that affect man. And yet he's not in the Neijing. What they mention is Huangdi. And the reason that they mention Huangdi is because Sima Chan explains that the plow was actually acted as the chariot for Huangdi. And so he would ride on this chariot because, of course, these gods are free to move about the heavens. And it would turn, with him riding on the chariot, it would turn the sky around. You can imagine it. For us, these two stars are the most important stars in the West, because basically you find those stars and they point straight up to Chan Wang Dadi. You measure those two stars, and then 5 times that distance you get up to here. But for the Chinese, the important star was here. In fact, it went down to Xiaoyao. And I think it's Liu Bu Wei. They talk about Xiaoyao pointing to the various different branches. It's an extension. So the plow isn't just those 7 stars. It carries on. There's like 8 or 9 stars in the Han Dynasty, and one of them fell out of this central palace. Central palace. This is the highest place in the heavens, for all the main, like Chan Wang Dadi, Beiji is here. You've got a place for Wudi Neizo. Again, we find it near Mingtang, past the summer solstice. Here they've got a place again where they meet up and discuss what's happening in the coming year. This one, I just marked that out because this, I think it's...
when you say this one, they can't see where your pointer is.
Oh, can they not? Yeah. I thought they did.
What was this on the screen? So,
sorry.
When you say, I think you're talking about Huagai now, right? So
yes, I hadn't realized that. Sorry about that.
That's right.
So this is just, I just highlighted it. It's 220. It's the celestial canopy, you know.
So yeah, Roisin's saying Huagai, which is the top one highlighted in yellow.
Yeah, and also Lugia, of course, the 60 stem branch cycle represented by a star here. Lu is 6 and G is the first stem. So it's 6 times the first stem, 60 stem and branch cycle. So also you can see what happens when this plow turns the sky around, because now we're getting to understand why Huang Di is so important in Chinese medicine. So what happens when the sky turns around? Anybody? Anybody online? We go from light to dark. We go from day to night. Day to night, the sun comes up and then it sets, and if the moon is with the sun, it comes up and sets at the same time. But if it's a full moon, then it comes up and sets. So we alternate between yin and yang.
So we're rotating around the Big Dipper, is what you're saying?
Yes, it's like the Big Dipper just moves the sky. Huang Di. So I'm standing here.
Just people at home, if you haven't got it, the Big Dipper is the yellow. Big yellow bit highlighted at the bottom, yes, with Beidou in the middle there.
Yeah. So he's on this, and it's his chariot, and the sky turns around, bringing the light yang of day and then the night, and then also because the stars steadily move eastward. So where the Big Dipper starts in the early evening, it moves approximately 1 degree, just under 1 degree a day. So from early evening, if you see where the Big Dipper is pointing, because by the way, within this central palace, none of these stars ever set. They're always above our horizon. If you're living somewhere like from about 50 degrees.
Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Just for those who are astronomically challenged, like I am, the Big Dipper, you may well be, a lot of people might know this, but the Big Dipper is like if you put a line through the Earth, through the North Pole. So if you from the North Pole look up into the sky, it's right in the center of the sky, basically, isn't it?
Well, it's off to the side. Yeah.
I mean,
of the sky.
It's almost in the center.
Yes.
So if you look, you can always see it, and you would see it rotating.
Yes.
Around, as Roisin says, to mark like the passing of a day, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And where it starts each day will mark out. It's like it becomes a big picking year clock. It actually marks out the year. So for every 15-degree turn, it marks out one of the 24 solar terms. For a 30-degree turn, it marks out one of the branches or one of the months. And a 90-degree turn, then you've got the one of the seasons marked out. And so I really have to get my notes here, because I want to quote Sima Chan, and you'll really understand then why. Here we are.
Sima Chan, who's about to quote, he's one of the most famous historians from Han Dynasty. Was he a Han Dynasty historian?
He's about, I think, 87. He published, he's a grand historian, published in 87 BC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know some.
So, yes, sorry about that. Okay. So Sima Chan, right, describes the plow at Beidou as the chariot. And he states that, Sima Chan states that Huang Di rode Beidou, which is the plow, so the Chinese name for the plow, in order to control the 4 cardinal points, to divide yin and yang, to regulate the 4 seasons, to maintain equilibrium between the 5 elements, and to take charge of the 24 solar periods in the calendar. And this really is, in a way, what we're doing with acupuncture. This is why Huang Di is written into every page of the Neijing, more or less, yes. Yes. So it's very interesting. So when you think of Huang Di as being the Earth Emperor, I think up until the sky during the Han was really well understood. You often heard of him just in terms of the Earth Emperor, and just in terms of, that they brought him to the fore because of the Qin Han dynasty and uniting China and all that. But actually, it's much more to do with this Taoist really trying to understand what came before. you know, so yes. And another thing that's relevant just on the numerology side of stuff is this is just a picture of the Temple of Heaven in Beijing. It's just south of the Forbidden City. And it's just full of all this numerological symbolism connecting heaven, earth, and man. You've got the 3 tiers above. And it also has, it's also got 3 tiers of steps leading up to it. It's got 12 pillars denoting the branches inside, and it's got 12, I think it's got an additional 12 pillars for the months. And it also has a very complex heavenly center stone. And this, funny enough, is relates to acupuncture as well, in the middle of the upper tier. Can you see this? The heavenly center stone, as the surface of the uppermost terrace of the circular mound is paved with 9 concentric rings of stone slabs. The round stone slab in the center is called the heavenly center stone, and it's surrounded by 9 stones in the first ring, 18 in the second, up to 81 in the 9th ring, symbolizing the 9 heavens. And if one speaks standing on the heavenly center stone, one's voice will become particularly resonant and sonorous. And it does, you know.
I went there when I was 18 years old. I had no idea. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic knowing all the symbolism with it. So the thing about the 81's a really, really important number, of course, in Taoist philosophy and Taoism, because of this link up with the 9 heavens.
And you've got 81 chapters in
81 chapters, and the Tao Te Ching is in 81 chapters.
And the Ling Shu.
The Su Wen, the Ling Shu, the Nanjing.
The Nanjing, yeah.
Yeah. And also in the Han Dynasty, even there was a treatise on mathematics. I think it was a Huang Lao one. It was called Huang Di Treatise on Mathematics, also in 81 chapters. And then it's very interesting because Vivian Lowe mentioned in a paper that she wrote on astromedicine, and she gave credit to Cullen for pointing her in the correct in the right way. Vivian Lowe is a very well-known Britain medical historian. She is an acupuncturist and did a lot of work when on the Ma Wang Dui silk writings. So she's very well known for that. So she, in one of these articles, so she actually, the length of the human body is said to be, 8 feet, 8 Chinese feet. That is 10, they're 10 chi in a foot, 10 little inches in a foot. And they're not our inches, they're Chinese ones. And so a human body is 8 chi. And funny enough, a gnomon, where you measure the shadow of the sun, is also the same size as a man. And so that when the Ling Shu goes into all this great detail in chapter 15 about the circulation of qi 50 times in the human body, it's yin qi. It's through the main meridians, and that's yin qi that flows through the main meridians, not all the other wei qi and all the rest of it. So the flow of yin qi is 50 times, and I'm going, why 50? It kind of doesn't fit in with all the other numerology. And in a way, 25 times during the day, 25 times at night. And so 25 times, yeah. So the Ling Shu says that it moves for every in-breath, and again for every out-breath, it moves 3 inches, 3 chi. And she added up all the length of all these meridians, and said that if you add them up and multiply them by 50, it comes out at 81,000. So the Ling Shu just went to great lengths to really, really match up the human body with the heavenly sphere. And I think in ancient times as well, the heavenly sphere, they're eternal. If you're going to go for at least a long life, you want to really be in harmony with something that's eternal, and also because it is the source of yin and yang for all human intents and purposes, the sun, the golden sun and the silver moon. And I have this theory, not backed up by anything, but my theory, but that, you know, that those original gold and silver needles are really resonant tools for the heavens with the golden sun, because the gold needles are really to tonify yang, the silver ones are really to tonify yin, and they're kind of like that. But there's much more, if you know, if you read on about this subject. I mean, to the nth degree, it's like the Wang Di Ne Jing is like applied Wang Dao philosophy to the nth degree, to the meridians, to the length of them, to when they arrive, to all of this stuff. It is actually quite incredible. It's really one of the major Wang Lao Taoist texts. Yeah. And it essentially, I want to say that from its origins, our medical system is a chronotherapeutic system. It was built on this concept of time. Even when they had the 81 chapters at the mathematical treatise, they always introduced time in it. You know, if they were doing a field division calculation, you know, at this particular time, at this particular day, this field needs to be divided up, and what's the calculation? It's time is always brought into it. It was just part of the thing. So, and also just to say that applying chronotherapy is increasingly understood and enhance all medicines. You know, if you take vaccines, they say if you take vaccines at 10 o'clock in the morning, you have a much better and stronger immune response than if you take it in the late afternoon. And there's a lot of medicines like that where they're understanding with chemotherapy, they want to start using chronotherapy with that because they can use much less medicine. And more so with our medicine. There's also, while there's no particular, even when it comes down to birth, so that's timing for doing things, but also in terms of us and when we're born, there are more articles coming out within Western medical tradition. They're very nervous because they don't want it to be associated with astrology in any way, and it isn't. It's really to do with the time factors, with the amount of light, you know, and we call it, you know, yin and yang. What's our balance of yin and yang that we kind of inherit? A bit like, you know, when something grows in a field in particular years, you just get a much better crop and etc. So there was a study, really large study on cardiovascular mortality. And I have to preface this by saying it doesn't matter what month you're born in, we all die equally. You know, there's an equal distribution of, you know, ages when we die, you know, but there does seem to be a difference in what kind of illness that we're more prone to. And so that they say that between March and July, people born March and July had the highest incidence of cardiovascular mortality. But more especially during March and then April. Those were the two highest months. And we're going to look at that because it's like you think, But if you think about it, when you see the farmer's calendar, you'll get to understand why that might be. Or at least you'll have an idea. At least you can put it into some kind of theory with it. And also the lowest incidence of cardio, and these are not the months that they die. These are people born in those months that they have that. And people born in the months of November and December have the lowest cardiovascular mortality rate. So that's very interesting, isn't it? And there's lots of things, you know, there's a lot of things like that. So, you've taken control of my clicker. Okay, good. That was just me standing on the heavenly center stone. Oh, please. With a group of acupuncturists, but they didn't really know about the numerology. Anyway, again, can we get the top of that screen to show this? This is essentially the farmer's calendar. And I have to say, Alex has got some expertise in this and runs a course dealing with this farmer's calendar. And with herbs and treatment and various things like that?
Last year I did a course on the solar terms. I think some of the people who did it last year. So I more about Yangshan and the solar terms and food and qigong and all the self-help stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I thought I'd choose something really practical, because that's all the background introductory philosophy to Huang Daoism. And so something quite practical that practitioners can use is this, the farmer's calendar. These are the 24 solar terms. You'll see the start date down here. These are the periods starting with the severe chill great cold, Dahan, on the 20th of January. It's not actually the start of the year, it's just the start of this. It meets up with Shui Yin. This is when Shui Yin division. These are the 6 divisions that come into it. These are the branches. Can you point those out online?
So the 6 divisions are down the right side column.
Yes.
And the branches are in the second column, which is starts green, yellow, red, yellow, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And the months are different than the branches. I just want to point out. So the first month is on the 4th of February, but that's actually the 3rd branch. The first branch is the gallbladder, see, over the winter solstice. So this is also very old. It was developed, well, actually, I think it must have started to be developed when they understood what the 8 major solar terms were, sometime just after the 7th century BC. And these are the 8 major solar terms you can read here. Well, I'll start with the 4 major ones: the spring equinox, summer solstice, autumn equinox, and winter solstice. And there you see the beginning of spring, beginning of summer, beginning of autumn, and beginning of winter. And you'll note certainly in the West, we have our seasons quite different. They start spring at the spring equinox, and they start summer at the summer solstice. That's very, very different for the Chinese calendar, because the Chinese calendar is much more concerned with the height of the sun. And when you saw in the earlier map with the height of the sun at the summer solstice, so that's this rising of yang from the lowest point at the winter solstice. The winter solstice is really the start of yang. This is where yin and yang really meet up through the seasons. So it's its lowest point. It actually crosses over at the spring equinox, where you can start to see, up until that point, the days are shorter than the nights. And then you get the spring equinox, and then you suddenly get the days lengthening, no longer than the night. So that is an all-out yang dominance over the yin. Before that, you've got both yin and yang around. One is diminishing, but it's still dominant, because the yin is still dominant. The nights are long. However, it switches over. And then when you get to the summer solstice, that's actually the beginning of yin, because yang is absolutely peaked at the summer solstice. And then you've got yin starting to grow. So yin starts to come right up at that point. And so you've got that 6 weeks leading up to the height of the sun, and 6 weeks after that is the summer season for the Chinese. And again, the beginning of spring is 6 weeks. You've got these 3 little 15-day periods coming up to the spring equinox. You'll probably notice that 24, 15 days, it just adds up to 360, but it's squared up with the 6 divisions, which are actually, although they're often said to be 60 days each, and they are, but in the Neijing it also clarifies that by saying it's 60.875 of a day to make up for the 365 and a quarter days. So these are all, I kind of think of the energy that you can work with and know what's around. These green here is really to do with the season. The colors that are highlighting the branches are to do with the dominant season that they're in. So lung and the Li is colon. That's the colon meridian, and they're there. It's really it's the clock, it's the day clock superimposed through the year. And then every third month, you've got the earth, which gathers the energy of the previous season and helps to harmonize into the next season. Yes. So, and so those colors are just like the spleen and heart. It's because it's just like in daytime, it's coming up to the highest point of the sun in the day, and through the year, it's coming up to the highest point of the sun over the equator. So that's why they're associated there with fire. Okay, so, and also to say that the 15-day solar periods are also broken into 3 quinate periods of 5 days. All right. So, and also in the Han Dynasty, you know, they used to be just equally divided through the year. But actually, once they understood after the Qing Dynasty that because the Earth actually moves around the sun, that's an ellipse rather than a circle, so it moves around faster during the winter period. You know, it's perihelion on the 4th of January. So you've actually got many more days. They adjusted this farmer's calendar, so you've got more days between the autumn equinox and the spring equinox than you do between the spring and the autumn. So anyway, so I think I'll not go on to the one to just bring in some of those little examples that we did earlier. If you look at this, so these are the kind of energies that are dominant. Shui Yin, by the way, is wood. Shao Yin is fire. Oh, I think it doesn't work, but anyway, it's all right. That very badly drawn, but anyway. So you see Shao Yin and Shao Yang is fire, Tai Yin is earth, Yang Ming metal, Tai Yang water, and Shui Yin wood. And again, just to do with this seasons, although there's 6 divisions and 4 seasons. So when you think of any acupuncturists here and online, I really want you to think about it. Why on earth would there be higher cardiovascular mortality? Now, when you look at this farmer's calendar, and it's the whole way between March and up until July. So why would that be? But the strongest month, the highest month is really March. It doesn't exactly say when in March, and I kind of wonder about that. March and April.
They're all fire divisions.
They're all fire divisions. Very, very, very good. They're fire divisions. And when you've got March, you've particularly March and April, which are the 2 strongest months for this cardiovascular mortality rate. It's specifically, it's specifically Shao Yin, which of course is heart and kidney. You know, because the fire of the heart can really only be controlled according to the I Ching, really through the water of the kidney. That's the only thing that can really keep that. You know, there's water associated with other elements, especially in the stems and branches, associated with other organs. For instance, Shao Yang is fire minister, but also it's got, I'll not confuse the issue, you know, so absolutely it's fire, and specifically Shao Yin.
And Western medicine has no idea why your birth month should make you more susceptible to cardiovascular disease. It's kind of like Western medicine has no idea why your birth month, you know, it's not even just, you know, what your death month is, your birth month.
Yeah. It's quite extraordinary, isn't it? You know, and of course there's more, you know, we're talking about 12 different months and there's more than 12 different ways of dying. But you know, but it's all, you know, to be able to make sense of it and to be able to kind of hone in on our treatments really helps and simplifies it.
Roisin, just if your head's facing directly ahead, then the microphone is clearer. That's it. If you turn your head away from the microphone.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I will just look at my notes here then. All right. Sorry. So, okay. Well, it's quite nice to see it on the, because it's nice, a nice big screen there. So that was very good. So another question I thought to bring up, another very practical, simple question, you know, that we all get in clinic, and just a way of applying some of this stuff. So we'll probably see hay fever. Hay fever obviously is a very obvious time, you know, event. And the onset of hay fever is anything from February, really, all the way through to about July. And it often starts really suddenly for whatever person. I have to say that most people's event, they always start at a particular time. So time isn't just on the obvious things like hay fever, insomnia, and all that kind of stuff. But hay fever is an interesting one. So again, I want everybody online as well as people here that are practitioners to look and see. Let's just examine, for example, if you get somebody with a February onset hay fever, what might be going on there?
February onset hay fever.
Yes. What all is involved in that?
Come on, chat. You've got to answer this one. Liz says lung branch. Elena says spring.
Yeah, both of those are right.
Oh, there you go.
Both of those are right.
Yeah, wisdom of the chat.
It's big. It's the big elephant again, isn't it? Both are right. There is the spring element, you know, that whole wind, that whole change of season with spring. But I do often, I have to confess, think of it as a lung branch problem. And so can anybody think of what one might do then if it's a lung branch problem?
Any ideas? Do you mean acupuncture-wise?
Yes, yeah.
You mean points? Or...
Yes.
Okay.
Generally.
Any points? Any point suggestions in the chat? Lung hay fever problem.
No,
everyone's
okay.
very shy.
All right. So I just want to say that with branches, it's often, in fact, a lot of stems of branches stuff. One looks at the opposite as well. So the opposite of the lung and the branch, the opposite in the clock, everybody will know, is the bladder. So actually combining the lung with the bladder meridian, you know, you've got bladder 1 here, you've got even points like bladder 58, you've got points like bladder 64. And I
Bladder
also
13. Bladder 13.
Bladder 13, bladder 12, which is also really good. I'm probably more, you know, you can definitely, it depends on how much weakness is there in the lungs to use bladder 13, but and using it with the lung points, and also because of course spring, the points that are advised to use are the yin points, Jing, Yin, the yin stand for, I forget, but the water and fire points, right? And so combining those, not just with the lung 10, I'm doing the colon, lung 10, but also lung 7, or, you know, or maybe lung 9 if there's a weakness there, but and combining that with bladder, and then you don't bring in all these other points. And this is the way that actually stems and branches really simplifies things, you know, because you're bringing in the time, you're bringing in that person. And so you don't get this big kind of cacophony of different notes from the different elements and stuff. You're just like, this is what you're balancing. So that's just one example. Next along is maybe March. What would be happening in March? Or you've got colon coming in there. So again, obviously, with the colon, you've got kidney. So kidney is the opposite of the colon on the branches. And so I like to use something, for example, you know, it could be kidney 6, which really helps ease off the eyes, all that, you know, irritation around the eyes. And it's really calming for just all this, you know, just too much stuff going on up here. And also I do very much like to use colon 2 of course, colon 4 at times and colon 20. You don't need to use too many. If it's just loads and loads of thicker phlegm, you might use colon 11 or something like that, but you balance it very, very simply and very clearly. The one thing about hay fever, you do have to tell people it is much better if they're off their antihistamine medication. However, if they're very nervous and they've really bad hay fever, maybe the first 1 or 2 treatments, they might not want to come off that. Generally, pretty quickly, they will come off it because they notice some improvement, but you've got to tell them when they come off it. So really, it's better if they do it the weekend. They will stream, nose stream. Their hay fever will be really bad for 2 or 3 days, and then it just stops. It just stops. It's a very, very effective treatment. These using time in with it just really makes a huge difference. Then they come back maybe a week later, the hay fever has gone, just starting to get a little bit more symptoms of it, and you just do another treatment or 2. It's a very effective way of treating it. Let's go through it.
I have to say, like, after doing a year of teaching the solar times with Yang Sheng, we would talk about what in theory was supposed to be happening, and then we would all post on Facebook what did happen, and it was amazing. Sometimes, like at the equinox last year, everybody had just massive flaring heat symptoms. And it wasn't just us, it was all our patients, families, people were getting fevers and skin conditions. Once you start observing it, once you start looking, it's there. It's absolutely there.
It absolutely is. And I was going to come on to that because some people have hay fever just like right on the equinox, or very, very close to it. And so what would that be? Online?
Hay fever on the equinox, spring equinox.
Very close to the spring equinox.
Okay. So what is hay fever just close to spring equinox, which is 21st of March on your on there, which is so I can anyone got any ideas? Just checking that chart. What's going on with hay fever round about the spring equinox? Any suggestions? You can see on the left, you've got transition between large intestine and stomach. And you've also got Shaoyin fire, heat as well. Rising heat, someone said. I think that's right. Because
it's actually all really good. It's all really good. So I was going to do stomach just after the Shaoyin, because stomach is just a little bit after the spring equinox. Yes, thanks, Alex. And so with Shaoyin, it's a really odd one, because one wouldn't think ordinarily of using Shaoyin with hay fever, but actually it is so effective. And I use it in combination with its opposite, the autumn equinox, which is Yang Ming. So you have the stomach and colon, just 1 or 2 points, stomach 44, colon 4 or colon 2, with Shaoyin, just like a simple, heart 7, again, kidney 6 for the eyes. It has an amazing effect. It just calms the whole system down, because don't forget that with hay fever, there's actually a lot of irritation with the small blood vessels. Like everything is really, really, as you say, and somebody else said, like all this heat coming up. And that is exactly what happens. You just calm that down. And it's fantastic. It's like, the whole body can just really relax. And so I do it in that combination. I'll just quickly go through this. Somebody else mentioned stomach. Absolutely. And I think that stomach one, when it's more like that, it is to do with this moving over between all the different seasons, because the stomach earth energy really harmonizes between the different seasons. And I think there's just a difficulty with that when earth is a little bit weak. So you would just quite simply do stomach 36 and support the stomach. Its opposite branch is heart governor. I have to say I don't use generally heart governor with that, but I might again use it just as part of, some Yang Ming or Shaoyin, or maybe just support the stomach. Next one is spleen. I never ever use the spleen, I don't think, unless somebody's really dampedy and there's something really different going on there, then I might use it. Or if somebody's got a real sore throat and you want to maybe use again the yin point, the spleen 2, something like that. And then after that, when it gets into summer one, again, it's the Shaoyang fire, and of course, when you've got fire both with Shaoyin and Shaoyang, what that fire does is over control on the metal element, which again is the colon and lung.
So Rick just said fire acting on metal.
Oh, so, very good.
You're way ahead of us, Rick. Well done.
Yes, very good. Excellent. That's exactly it. So it's fire over controlling on metal. So in that case, you definitely would want to do like a Harari point on either colon 1 or lung lung 8. Took me a minute there. Going backwards between the colon 11 and the lung 8. So yes. So you can see how even just on simple terms one can use this. So I hope that with this this very introductory talk on the philosophy, I hope that no matter how complicated it all looks like on the surface, it actually you'll understand that how this can bring about a lot of clarity, having a lot of those fuzzy thoughts. You know, it is like that stuff under your stairs or in the attic, and it's like, where did that come from? What's it used for? You know, we get all these little bits of stuff that don't fit in, and it's really nice just knowing how all that fits. And also, one can see that actually in the end, this approach, when you get it and when you understand these core concepts, it makes things really simple. It makes the treatments really, really simple. You know, because with hay fever, you think, oh, should I do, oh yeah, with the Shaoyang, I didn't mention it could also be with triple heater and gallbladder. You know, triple heater 2, the eyes and the water and, you know, the watery eyes and all that, and gallbladder, you know, there's several of them even from gallbladder 41 or even Yang Wei Mai, you know, if it's come and go in a bit there, you know, if it's that kind of illness. So, that's it. And so Alex, I think, is wanting to ask some questions. I was just going to, where's my slide?
Yep, bring your slides back. There we go.
I'm going to have to go through these quick. We didn't have time to do the stems and branches chart, but you can download that, by the way, from the Moondance Publishers website, where you can get the book. Alex, I think this is you. Okay. Why? And also you being inspired by one of your teachers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
so
maybe
yeah, I'm definitely the second picture. So I'm let me just bring up let me just see. Okay. This website. So if I here we go. Okay. Just bear with me 1 second. So here we go. I'll share the screen again. Oh. Okay. Yes. So as Roisin was saying, I'm partly to blame for this course happening because I really, really wanted to learn with Roisin. Just my experience. Some of you know that I'll just come around so people can see me. Yeah. I got interested in Chinese medicine while living in Taiwan. And James, can you check that the cameras can see us both? Camera here. Can see us. That's great. Yeah, so my teacher in Taiwan, the man who inspired me to study Chinese medicine, he understood all the stems and branches stuff very, very well and extremely practically in this way that Roisin's been talking about today, where you can really track progress of diseases, kind of predict when they're going to come up, know which points to treat them when, time of day, the seasons, the 60-year cycles, all of these things. And I just always wanted to learn it. And, Roisin's pretty much anyone who wrote a book on it. And so when I had the opportunity to meet Roisin, and just said, are you going to do your course? And so she said yes. And so there is going to be a 6-weekend course this year. starting in the end of March. And I've just put up on the screen, I think everyone should be able to see. Maybe could you just scroll down, James, so you get to weekend one? I think should down. That's it. Down. That's it. That's perfect. Yeah. So yeah, just thought I'd have a quick conversation with Roisin, ask her what's on the course. As you can see, she gave a little bit of introduction today on the concept of Huanglao Taoism. And by the way, Huanglao is another thing that came up with my teacher because he was very interested in a particular book called the Tan Tong Chi, which is completely impossible to read. But the Tan Tong Chi is bringing together three fields. It's bringing together Huanglao, just says Huanglao, so Huanglao Taoism, and that's, I think, all of Taoism, all of the medicine, the I Ching, and internal alchemy. just three small little subjects there, right? Anyway, and so I can validate. I mean, Huanglao really is this. It's incredible kind of expanded idea of everything that we do. So you got 6 weekends on this course, and the first one's is kind of introductory to some extent, isn't it? But also getting into tangible things with the solar and lunar cycles on blood and chi.
Yeah, well, actually, I think because we all learn, the seasons with the 5 elements. We learn the Chinese clock. And, we know when yin and yang is and the ebb and flow of yin and yang. But I just kind of feel like there's a lot more to it. Like looking at the farmer's calendar, we'll be looking at the calendar and understanding it. And actually just understanding that flow of yin and yang, because it's understanding time, because time is such a core component. And to understand stems and branches, and particularly something straightforward like the 6 divisions. Well, they're not straightforward. They're actually quite complex, of course, but they're absolutely based on time. Everything to do with the 6 divisions. They're divisions of the body. They're spatial divisions, but they are also absolutely divisions of time, as you saw in the farmer's calendar, alongside the farmer's calendar, the 24 solar periods. And so a lot of the qualities of the 6 divisions are based on time. The amount of blood and chi are based on time, and that whole flow of even when you look into the Shanghanlan where they have that the 6 stages of disease, and that's really to do with the 6 divisions, actually gas divisions.
We learn these things like, X division has X amount of blood and X amount of chi and everything. And it's like, well, how do we use that clinically? And I think one thing I just wanted to say from talking to you about this and reading your book is that this course is not just about those time and space elements. It's actually deepening into all of these core concepts and then being able to use them. So how does that help us? That Yang Ming has lots of blood, lots of chi. Is that right?
Yeah.
And just connecting it to weekend 2 when we've mentioned fertility here. There's the menstrual cycle. Which also really relates to the flow of blood and chi in the body, and we can relate that to other cycles. Obviously, lunar cycle is the big one, but all of these things intersect, and lots of practical stuff in the course.
I think you say all that better than me, because I do really like to get the philosophy really bedded in there, and then the practical stuff just becomes, it's like you don't have to then memorize it. You don't have to memorize what's when does that come in and how much blood and chi. It's like it's just really obvious because you understand what it's based from. So there's less memory involved, and it becomes actually much more simple. So that is why I kind of focus on that quite a bit. It's like, because it all becomes kind of obvious. And also when you understand it, you could pretty much write out your own stem and branches chart. It's like, it's actually, it's quite straightforward. And it's not just stems and branches, as I hope that you understand as well. It's everything. It is heaven, earth, man. Really, nothing in acupuncture would exist. Acupuncture wouldn't exist if we didn't have this concept of heaven, earth, man. Everything comes out of that. Absolutely everything. Yes.
So 100%. Weekend 2 is Heaven Earth Man. We won't go through everything in detail here because of time and everything. We want to get to your questions. But we'll put a link in the chat to the website so you can have a look at it. Just to let you know that it is going to be in person at City College in London and live streamed as well. So if you're abroad or a different part of the UK can't make it, you can join it as an online participant. I will be here to monitor the chat, make sure all your questions get answered. Check the tech, check the audio. I know, just make sure that you can hear everything.
Can I also say it can also be non-synchronous, because there've been a couple of people, both from Europe and also America, that are interested, and for various reasons, just can't do it at the same time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So it can be recorded and accessed.
Yeah, so every class will be in line. And by the way, if you can come in person, we'd love you to come in person, because it's nice to have some in-person people. But if you can't, that's fine, come online. And if you can't make it every session, or you can't make it at all, or kind of with the time, because if you live in a different country, every session is recorded, uploaded. And even if you come in person or online at the time, you get access to all the videos as well for a good period, so you can review things and watch them at your convenience. And so, as you can see, as I say, we won't go into detail now, but I'll send the link. You've got the 6 divisions on weekend 3. Weekend 4 is focused on 10 great movements, 10 heavenly stems. Weekend 5 on 12 earthly branches, and thankfully putting it all together. And one of the benefits of this course is, you can learn this material, but the key is in how you put it all together. And I feel really lucky that, we're going to learn from Roisin, who, you spend a lifetime figuring out how to make this work in the clinic, how to put it together, how to make it real. Yeah.
Can I just say that I have got that they're putting it all together, bringing all those different, especially stems and branches, great movements. But actually, from the very first weekend, with the time and the 5 elements, you will absolutely, what I really would hope, and what I always hoped also with the book, is that people just take a chapter or so and then go away and practice it for a month. There'll be about 6 weeks in between the different weekends. And so start even, the stuff that was today, just like start thinking about it and bring it into your practice. It makes a difference. And so every single weekend, there will be very practical things for you to be getting on with observing, with trying out and seeing. And remember, the elephant is all those different parts.
Well, I remember one of the things that I picked up when I read your book was about depths of chi in different seasons. And immediately that make a difference to me of what am I feeling on the pulse? How deep am I going to needle, according to a different season for different people? There's immediate things you get like that already, absolutely. That enhances it. And then again, weekend 6 is another consolidation weekend with case studies, and there will be case studies throughout as well.
Absolutely.
And also this thing, special combination of elements, which I have no idea what that is, but it sounds exciting. So I'm looking forward to getting there. So there are early bird discounts at the moment. So I'll put the link on the chat. If you sign up to this talk, we'll send you all the information through, and we'll also, once the video of this has been edited and uploaded, you'll get a link to this video as well, for as long as you want to watch it too. So is there anything else you want to add about the course?
No, I think we've covered everything. It's going to be up on the website.
Yeah.
Event Create website, is it?
That's right. Yeah, I will put the link in the chat in 1 second.
And maybe if Dive Seminars gets together, it might be up in that. But
so, but just for now, thanks everyone for coming. But if you'd like to ask questions now, you can put them in the chat and I'll relay them to Roisin, either about anything she's talked about today, anything about stems and branches, anything about the course. I'll just check the chat now.
And thank you for joining us. It's been great.
Okay, so
thank you.
Okay, they've got some nice thanks here. So there was an earlier question, but okay, so someone asked when, hold on a second, how do I get this down? Oh. When you make the delineation between astronomy and astrology, is that to say that this system of acupuncture, hold on, Is that to say that this system of acupuncture doesn't have a relationship with Chinese astrology as it does with the I Ching, or are they completely separate fields? So astronomy versus astrology, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm very glad he asked that. So it is the stems and branches, but are quite different from astrology. There are some things in this that are to do with that movement of Tai, Rendi around the palaces, and so it's with different parts of the body. And that was very prevalent in the Han Dynasty, and again, I think in the Song Dynasty. And a lot of practitioners use that. There are views even back in the Han Dynasty where they kind of felt like, that, well, that is more of a numerological system. And of course, part of this is also numerological, but it's a little bit of a mix, but more based on astronomy, much, much more based on the movement of the sun and the moon and our chronobiology. There was one lecture I went to by a professor at the Royal Society of Medicine that was entitled The Moon's Silly and Longevity. And I thought, I've got to go to that. It's such a great title. And, because a lot of people, a lot of scientists, it's not been understood that the moon has actually a direct relationship in the body, even though people notice moon cycles on the body really quite a lot. But he discovered through his work with cilia, he was a molecular biologist, but also a world expert on ciliopathies, basically on very, very rare genetic diseases. And he discovered that the cilia responded to the waxing and waning moon and turned on off certain proteins. So every single cell in our body has got this body clock in it. So it's much more to do with astronomy, but based on the Chinese understanding of astronomy and how they put kind of transferred that onto our body. But there is a certain amount, because when you've got like something like 10 stems, I mean, the branches are kind of easy to understand. When you've got 10 stems, that seems like just a numerological cycle. There are actually, I mean, almost all of this, and the Chinese were very aware of it, putting a lot of this numerological stuff along with movements of the various planets. But those always go out after a certain amount of time, but nonetheless, they form a really good basis for understanding core acupuncture theory. And I think that's the most important point, is where it really hones in and simplifies our treatments, that understanding. So it's not I'm going to do a course, maybe after this, do a weekend course on the Han Dynasty astronomy and the astronomy section of this, and another weekend on the numerology and the symbols, the trigrams. But that would be after this course. It doesn't actually, it comes into just tiny bits in this course, but not fully.
You have a section of astronomy in your book.
Yes.
And I think it's something that even the word numerology doesn't quite capture it, because in numerology people think of something superstitious or unscientific, and this is about these are incredibly smart people who came up with this. It's very scientific, it's very systematic, and I think, but it's got something that speaks to the heart and the brain, so I think it's got both of those together. Are there any other questions?
That's a great question.
Yeah, great question. Any other questions at all? So Sonia asked about how long the recorded sessions will be available. This talk will just be freely available, so for as long as you want to watch it. The sessions for the full course will be available for the length of the course, and I think maybe plus 6 months or something. But I always say if people need a bit more time to watch them,
6 months or more. If people during the course and they really can't fit it in, I've got one person, I think, in Poland or somewhere, and they're doing several other acupuncture courses, and they're trying to fit it all in.
Really interesting conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The question was, the reason why I wanted to speak was because in Western astrology, you have a field which is medical astrology. And so the houses and the movement of the planets actually indicate when part of the body might be susceptible to illness. And I thought that very much related or correlate to the farmer's calendar, which was looking at the seasons and the specific times. The question was that because it seems like much of Chinese wisdom is based on the elements. I understand that this particular branch is to do with astronomy and the lunar cycles and the solar cycles, which is fascinating. Does she know of any studies or individuals that have looked into the astrology, the movement of the planets beyond? I know there's only 7 in Chinese astrology, but does she know of anyone that is looking at the correlation of TCM, acupuncture, and Chinese astrology from an elemental point of view?
I don't know all the different research. I think there needs to be more research, because a lot of the research that's published is all to do with, proven acupuncture works for various particular ailments, often using the same, set of points. That really is not the way we practice at all. They're not really testing acupuncture. I think that there is room, and I would really imagine and hope that there is research into I don't know about the planets, but certainly the stems and branches, certainly, because I don't know how much the Chinese look at the planets. We're going to cover some of the planet stuff in connection with the 5 elements talk, which is in the first weekend. And that's also in part in the psychology in the book, where you get a lot of that stuff. But so I'm afraid I don't know about all that. I know that they've done some research looking at timing and using different points, for all sorts of different things, and they know that at certain times certain points really work really well, and that like bladder points work really well during the bladder time, and sometimes have an opposite effect when it's used at the wrong time, which can happen. That
I mean, I would say partly answered your question as well, that the Chinese kind of take everything into account. So, constellations, planets, elemental transformations, climatic transformations with the 6 divisions, and this course and this material is putting it all together. So it's, there are things that have an astrological kind of bent to them, and then there are things which are very grounded, and it's kind of there's a mixture.
Can I just say that I think that people often think that this is more astrological probably than it is. I don't think of it as so much. Maybe I'm downplaying some of that stuff. I mean, I'm sure I am. But when we get into doing the course, we're really looking at all the practicalities. Where it comes from and how it really integrates into the body, and particularly how it integrates with Chinese medicines. That when we want to do research or we want to decide on what, and how we want to take this further, first of all, we really need to know what the core theory is, because I think acupuncture often gets tested and it's not really the full range of what acupuncture really is, which I think is a shame.
Yeah, and if anyone's done my solar time course, you'll see that there is a reason why it goes wind, fire, and then late summer is damp, and then it's dryness, and then it's cold. All of those have a climatic reason behind them, so it's not arbitrary. And these things have real reasons and real connections behind them. Next question was thank you.
Can I say something on that? It's just that when you mention that and mention the different climates, like the farmer's calendar, and in one sense you can see all the different kind of energies in there, but when you then add everything in together, the Chinese know that nothing's really predictable. I mean, their prediction of the weather isn't any better than the BBC's, and vice versa. It's like, it's going to rain. No, it is, and but they have a lot of these very complex interweaving cycles, and that's, we don't have to go out. We don't make the whole system more complex, but understanding that and knowing where everything's at, making our own energy disc and all that. It's like we can see what.
There's a point where it actually simplifies things. It actually helps really choose, narrows down what points you should use,
Yeah.
things like that. So Sandra said, thank you, Roisin and Alex, for this talk. Fascinating stuff. I was just wondering if there are also implications for herbal medicine treatments in terms of the calendar times. I'll just say something that I'm not sure how, I don't think Roisin will be going into the herbs so much on this course. However, a Chinese friend of mine persuaded me to do another stems and branches course at the same time this year in Chinese, which is pretty challenging. And this teacher is actually giving herbal formulas. According to he's connected it all to the Shanghanlen. So you know, one of the nice things about this course is you know, all the people on it, including me, who bring in their own things to it. So Sandra, if you do the course, I'll have some interesting conversations about herbs with you on that one.
They do mention herbs in the Neijing, even though it's mostly acupuncture in the Neijing. But they do mention, they also mention about just the particular years, whereas some years for these herbs like just so powerful, and some years it just really, really not powerful at all. And to, you know, linking it up with the stems and branches. And also I think in the Shanghanlan, a lot of that's very stems and branching.
So some readings of the Shanghanlen take the divisions and they match the divisions to the divisions in stems and branches, and therefore you can kind of match these cycles with those. And the system that the other system I'm looking at actually just brings up formulas for different combinations of stems and branches, which is quite amazing. Another question is, do we really use or calculate proper solar time for our treatments to be successful? I think it's, do we really need to calculate proper solar time for our treatments to be successful?
No, obviously a lot of people, you know, I mean, treatments are successful, otherwise acupuncture wouldn't carry on. And it's not a matter of really, it's kind of just knowing where we are. You know, here we are at the beginning of spring. So what's happening? We're not, you know, we're kind, you know, having an idea of where we are in time actually matters. It's not like we need to look at our watch and decide, you know, this person needs treated at a particular time, you know, their liver, you know, why didn't you come at 2 a.m, or, you know, whatever time. It's like, that is just not going to happen. But it's understanding what's available in that person, and then using that. You know, if it's a very yin time of year and somebody's really yang deficient, you know, what is around at that particular time to work in harmony with what's there, not go against them in that particular time of day, you know, where you're, you know, like really strongly tonifying yang when it's really, their yin is really rising up and getting them ready for bed. However, there are other meridians, pardon me, it gives you a lot of different ways of actually just accessing what's available to make it a really strong and very harmonious treatment where everything is working together. You know, it just sings together, all the points. It's lovely.
Yeah, that's what you said to me before about, you know, literally the harmony and things kind of singing. And we all know that feeling where we give a treatment or receive a treatment, and there's so much synergy between the points and with that person at that time. And it just, and other times you think, oh, it's a great treatment. And then you put things and nothing happens. So like trying to answer those questions, you know.
And also just emphasize, it's a kind of just getting, you know, just getting the general vibe and knowing where you are. It's a complex business, but there's a lot of stuff you can access.
Yeah. So Fiona says, thank you. This has been fascinating. Can I ask whether your Stems and Branches book covers what you have talked about tonight in more in depth, and is it suitable for practitioners of any acupuncture modality?
Absolutely. Thank you, Alex. So the Stems and Branches book, it goes through all, I mean, you can look at it online, you can even have a look inside, you know, and you can just look for it on moondancepublishers.com. You can also get it on Amazon, but on either one of those sites, you can take a look inside the book and see the different chapters. And I think, I can't remember exactly how much is available to read. Obviously not the whole book, but there's quite a bit of it that you can read online when you click on it. I'll just run through some of the stuff. It's done in 3 sections. So the first section is all the basic concepts of time, the calendar, really establishing that with the year. concepts such as non-time, you know, this kind of oneness when we're just not fully formed, we're just not fully divided up into our full organs and all the rest of it, and how we develop out of that. So that period of non-time, and then cyclical time, you know, which is, you know, we're born, you know, we grow, you know, we mature, and you know, and then there's the autumn and winter of our lives. And so it talks about that, talks about heaven and earth, and it talks about production of energy within terms of heaven, earth, man. What else? Goes into the stems and branches, all the technical stuff of that, fully into the 6 divisions, and then it's got a whole chapter on astronomy and even an appendix on observational astronomy, so that you can kind of figure out, you know, what we're talking about. And then it has a chapter on, as I say, the trigrams and the number patterns, the fushi, and the magic square, the lo shu, and also one on, yes, the psychology, and where that psychology, how personality develops. And I guess it brings in those concepts of the planet associations with the elements, but also the divisions and also the stems. I mean, yeah.
So another answer to that book is Elena's comment is, this book is one of the best ever books in the world.
Oh, is that?
Elena. So that's a very nice comment there.
Thank you,
you know, it's a brilliant book. It's, and if you're asking, it really does cover things very, very thoroughly. But what I would say is, you know, come and do the course, because this will help you to actually really use it, and then the book will be there to consolidate things, but you know, to actually put it into practice. I think that it's not every day that you get to learn from somebody who's been working with it for so long. I mean, you really think about things so deeply. You can see that with your you know, all the amazing nuggets about the star map, you know, and you know, about what the Huangdi actually represents. And it's just
in college. We didn't learn about Huangdi.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and the solar, you know, associations and things like that. Liz just asked she just want to double check if the course weekends are recorded. Yeah, all the course weekends are recorded. You're going to get all the videos. Even if you come to the course live, you'll also get the videos to rewatch afterwards as well. They'll be available to stream for the length of the course, and say 6 months after the course.
Depending on how many people are unable to do it. Oh, sorry. Depending on how many people are able to do it in synchrony with us, I'm going to try and work out some way to answer people's questions that are maybe not able to attend at the same time as the rest of us.
I mean, one thing we could do is, as I said, I tried to create a Facebook group for my course. We could do the same thing. So we could all have a Facebook group. We could all go on there and post our cases and our questions and our comments between sessions, so we can help each other learn. You know, and that might be a good way to do it. So that's one possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm, you know, we work something out for that, definitely.
Any questions? Any questions here in the room at all? Let me just.
Extreme weather now. A question about the extreme weather, which is global at the moment in this period, and we read the newspapers. It's really man-made. Is it totally man-made, or is it in the heavens? Is it in the calendars? Is it something that...
Andrew.
No, that's a good question. I'm so sorry.
No, that's a good question. It's a very good question. I don't really know to what extent. I mean, obviously, there's a massive man-made event going on. But as you say, that there are also these massive cycles that go on over, you know, 27,000 years or even more, you know, hundreds of thousands of years, you know, what ice ages come and go over long periods of time. And that whole question of this movement of the magnetic field in the earth, which is also wobbling a bit. It always has wobbled, and sometimes totally reverses. And I think that makes a huge shift. I don't know so much about climate. I think probably it makes a huge shift on things like fertility and things like that, but probably also on climate. I'm not quite sure about that. But so I don't know what the balance is, you know, but it's like, as I say, there's so many different cycles all come together, and we do have to also, you know, instead of saying, oh, it's going to be sunny today and it's Shaoyang and whatnot, it's like, really, you know, we have to take account of what's actually happening out there. We can't get so unrooted from what's really happening. So we definitely have to take account of it.
I think one thing I think about is that it's important, really important for us to preserve this knowledge and learn these cycles, because, you know, in a sense, like, these cycles tell us this is what should happen in the year. And then sometimes, you know, you have a spring that's too cold, or, you know, a winter that's too warm, and then you get diseases and, you know, these kinds of things.
But those are the visiting chi.
Those are the visiting chi. But, you know, but then if we get really good at this, maybe we can start to think about what global warming is actually doing as a new extra visiting chi, in a sense. And then we can understand what are the new diseases that are going to come. So, like, you know, I think this knowledge is really important to preserve, particularly because of global warming.
Yeah, excellent.
Any other questions? You got any questions? Okay, so I think that if that's all the questions there, anything else to say, Roisin, or should we bring this to a close?
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us all. It's been really great. Thank you for coming to North London, and thank you so much for joining from everywhere online. It's been really, really great.